Amanda Nunes, Julianna Pena, guys, what do you think? Right now, straight up, what do you think? Because before I asked you that, I went over to DraftKings. DraftKings right now, it's a 2.5 to 1 spread. That favors Amanda. But if we were to back up, guys, right, I'm talking to you right now 4 days before they fight. The last time they fought, 4 days prior, it was 8 to 1. 8 to 1, favoring the Lioness, Amanda Nunes. What's different? Now, I know the answer to that question is you saw them fight, now you realize that Julianna can beat her. Okay, but you're not saying Julianna can beat her. You're still, as the collective bettors, you've still got Amanda. You have the lines much closer, but look, 2.5 to 1. I mean, to put in perspective for you, when Israel Adesanya fought Jared Cannonier, okay, 2 weeks ago, Israel was a 4 to 1. Just to put that in perspective. However you felt about that fight, it was 4 to 1. To put in perspective for you, when Alex Volkanovski took on Max, also 3 weeks ago, and for their third fight, at times during the week, DraftKings had Max the favorite. It bounced up. When it ultimately went off, it was Volkanovski, but it was tight. So I'm just sharing with you what a 2.5 favorite means. There's some rules in betting, guys. There's some rules that you'll have hardcore bettors tell you are an absolute. My father, as well as his father, would tell you, you always bet on Detroit on Thanksgiving. Now, I have seen Detroit lose on Thanksgiving, but there's people that really believe this, and I'll give you another one. And this one you're going to have a much harder time finding an exception to. If two fighters fight, now this can be old, I apologize, this can be MMA, or this can be older school, which is boxing. If two fighters fight and there's a finish, when they rematch, the younger fighter will win again, only easier. That is a rule in boxing. That is a rule in MMA. If an exception to that exists, I don't know what it is. I'm going to say it for you again if you want to go to Google, if you want to search this. If two fighters fight and there's a finish, when they rematch, the younger fighter will win again, only easier. So if we're to look at that as one thing, you're talking about Julianna Pena beating Amanda again. Now, set those aside, because these two ladies are pretty close. I mean, they're separated by a matter of 20 months, right? Well, Julianna's 32 right now. Amanda's 34. So there's got to be a tipping edge. There's got to be, hey, that's close enough. I understand that. What is going to be different this time than was different in the previous time? Well, Amanda's got a new gym. It's her own gym, but she was very frustrated. She didn't open up and talk about that. She was quite gracious and said, oh, I was going to do this anyway. It has nothing to do with the outcome of my fight. This is a business for me. This is something that I want to do within my retirement. And I just got the lease and the equipment. It all just happened to come together now. And then as some time went by, she opened up and said, look, I was a little frustrated at ATT. I started the women's division at ATT. I was the first woman to come through the door. I was the first woman they had win, let alone get to championship matches, let alone get to titles, let alone get to simultaneous titles. They all came in because of me, and now I'm distracted. My coaches are distracted. My workout owner's highly focused on me, so she's going to another gym to get that. Can she? Just because she owns the facility and she signs the check, can she get that same motivation from her coaches? Just a question. I have no reason to believe that she can't. I'm asking the question. What within this new training camp is going to be different? Now, the thing that bit Amanda in the ass the first time was nothing to do from the X's and O's. It was a purely mental lapse. Amanda found herself in a fight that was harder than the fight Amanda thought she was going to have. Whenever that happens in combat, things unravel quickly. When she put that big right hand on Julianna's face, the same one that ended the night against Cyborg, the same one that ended the night against Rousey, and Julianna, instead of falling down or falling backwards, stepped forward with a smile on her face, that became a problem. If I heard Amanda saying the things that I'm saying to you right now, you'd have a pretty good reason, as would I, to believe that Amanda can flip the script. Amanda doesn't owe us anything, including the truth. So Amanda does not need to come out and tell us what really happened that night, how she really felt and what she genuinely plans to change in strategies. I understand that. But fighters have a tendency of doing just that. Fighters are far more inclined over a period of time as they're using the world, they're using the audience as a counseling session. And it's very helpful. It's very empowering to come out and tell the world what your secret is. When you have mental lapses and you come and tell the world, it just took its power away. It's something that I think Amanda would have done, but she didn't do it. And I conclude she didn't do it because she hasn't accepted it yet. I don't believe that Amanda has accepted, I quit. I got tired because I was frustrated because she was tougher than I thought she was going to be. I think it's relevant. I think your odds over at DraftKings of a 2.5 favorite, it's a good day to go lock that in. I think it's going to get a little bit tighter. I think when they get to the open workouts and the open media and you see that's the same hungry Julianna, there are changes that are very evident that Amanda could make. There was only one round that was completed. All 3 judges gave it to Amanda, but so did the rest of us. It was crystal clear. But there was a lot of energy that was used. And I do think if anybody needs to make changes, I think Julianna. And I'm hoping she's open to the idea, because a lot of times people will tie their performance to the outcome. They'll tie their strategy, they'll tie their trainers, they'll tie their camp, they'll tie how much they ate, how many hours they slept to the outcome. The outcome favored Julianna, but the performance still favored Amanda. That's the hard truth that nobody seems to want to sit down and realize here. It's one thing that Amanda hasn't spoke about, but I'm not clear that Julianna is also fully aware. I got to get my head out of the way. I got to threaten her more. I got to close the distance, and even if I can't take her down, I need to hang on to her a little tighter. Every single time Julianna puts her hands on Amanda, she needs to wear the battery down of Amanda, whether she's pushing or she's pulling. Doesn't have to get her down to the ground. These are small things, but then you do want to wonder who's hungrier. One problem that Amanda had going into that first fight, not only that the whole world believed in her and nobody told her that this was going to be a hard fight. The other problem that she had is regardless of outcome, she wakes up tomorrow the champion of the world. That's a very rare level of success, guys. If you were the champion, if you made it to that level, and you make one slip over here and that's gone, that title and that fame and that gold belt gets pulled off of your waist, whoo, you got a lot of pressure, right? You're going to be puckered up and you're going to be thinking about that. What if you've had so much success that you've got 2 championships in 2 different weight classes? You enter the ring world champion, regardless of outcome, you leave the ring and you're still the world champion. I mean, but that's a real thing to think of. Like, Amanda really wants this back, I believe. Amanda would prefer to fight at 45, but is going to pull down to 35 because she's finally found somebody that can give her resistance. I believe. Amanda is so committed to giving this back that she left the only team that she knows to go out and do her own thing because she thinks it's better for her. I believe. I really do believe those things. Now, none of them are going to equate to a championship. And to the folks at DraftKings that have Amanda 2-1 favorite, none of them are going to equate to that odds being correct. If Amanda isn't fully aware, whether she's told us, the audience, or not, if she is not fully aware within her heart and her mind that I fell apart in the last fight because this girl could take harder hits than I knew she could. Now you got to go look at Julianna. Julianna was flat fired up for that last fight. DraftKings had her at an 8-1 underdog. Closed as small as a 7-1 underdog. It was an insult. But there was no pressure. And sports guys always love to come and talk to the audience who has the pressure, but they never take the time to explain why that matters. When you are in a sport like combat, who is predicated on cardiovascular ability, who can push harder, longer, it is predicated. It is number one. It is paramount. If you're feeling a pressure, that will create an anxiety. That anxiety will release a chemical, and it will cause fatigue. So whoever is feeling the pressure is more likely, scientifically speaking, to reach exhaustion than the other one. And one thing about Julianna, and this is my opinion, guys, I think DraftKings has it wrong again. I do. I believe Julianna's going to win this fight. But talking with Julianna right here on Fight Week was the exact feeling I had when Sterling was going in to fight Jan. I was able to speak to Sterling. Sterling was not aware and was not approaching the match as though he had something to defend. Sterling was approaching that as though he was the contender. You, the audience, had reasons, whatever it was, but he agreed with you. So there was not a pressure, there was a hunger. And I'm sensing that right now with Julianna. You have not accepted her as champion. If you had, she wouldn't be the 2.5 to 1 dog. I think her mind's in the right spot. And I do think she is aware of how hard this fight is going to be. She now knows the power of Amanda. The only difference is she now knows that she can take the power of Amanda. Go to DraftKings, lock your bet in. But remember one thing, and I'll say it a third time. And in the history of combat, I don't think you're going to find an exception. If a younger fighter stops the older fighter and they do it again, the younger fighter will beat them again, only quicker.